Hey guys, this is Bharadwaj with Fonearena.com and this is the G3, LG's latest flagship device. And as you might have known already, all flagships come with a lot of expectations in every department possible. So one of the key departments that people expect the flagship to excel in is of course the camera. The LG G3 comes with a 13 megapixel unit, very similar to the LG G2, but has an extra few features thrown in, like for example the laser autofocus unit, the dual tone flash, and optical image stabilization plus that we had seen on the G Pro 2. So what else is new and how is the whole camera interface like and what's the performance like? That's one of the most important things that we are going to see today in the camera review of the LG G3. So we'll start with the camera specifics here. The phone comes with a 13 megapixel sensor and a f2.4 aperture lens, a setup that is very similar to what we had seen on the G2. But there are of course extra few things packed here, like for example the laser autofocus unit and a dual tone flash as mentioned earlier, and also optical image stabilization plus. Previously the G2 had OIS, but this is OIS plus just like the G Pro 2, and is a combination of hardware and software. So it has the hardware level stabilization as well as software level stabilization. We'll talk about that later in the video section. But let's start with the interface here. The interface, as you might have seen already, G3 has a really new interface, and that is based on Android 4.4. LG has changed, or rather moved, to a flat interface, and the camera UI has gotten that treatment too. So taking a look at this, let's zoom in and focus a little bit. So there you go. That's the interface. Over at the right, you have two shutter buttons for the camera and the video, and you have the gallery thumbnail. This is the back because the interface occupies the full screen, and if you slide out, you will indeed see the navigation buttons. So over at the left, you have several icons here that detail what they do. For example, this is the settings, and everything has a slide out tray, which are nested and they will slide out more. So we'll take a look at all of them. This is the button that enables or disables all the controls. So if you don't want anything on the screen, you can still have it very minimal, and in that case this will take a photo. So that's how it works, a very minimal interface if you want it, and if you want options, you can get them all back. So let's go into the settings first. The settings, as you might have already seen in various phones and cameras, is pretty detailed when it comes to flagships. So you can turn grids on and off, you have timers, you have spoken commands. You can say any of these commands and take a photo. For example, smile. Well, there you go. That's how it works, and you can turn that off and on. And of course, this is the most important thing. This is the menu for selecting the resolution for photos as well as video. So photos, as you can see, pretty understandable that it's 13 megapixel 4:3, 10 megapixel wide, and of course 9 and 3 megapixel modes. But in video, you have a lot of modes. For example, you have the Ultra HD 4K video mode, the normal Full HD mode, the 720p mode, and the 720p 120 fps slow motion mode. We'll show you all the samples and all the usual stuff. And then there is a toggle for HDR, which curiously has an auto mode, which works great. So we'll talk about that later. Now moving on to modes, you have 4 modes basically. Auto is of course auto. You have magic focus. Magic focus is something very similar to Nokia refocus we had seen on the G Pro 2. And then you have panorama and the dual shot. Dual shot takes use of both the cameras. So there is the front camera too, which works pretty well, and the front camera, as you can see, pretty nice. And then you have the usual slider for beautification that is somewhat necessary for some, somewhat unnecessary for some. So that's something subjective. We leave you to that. So that brings us to the end of the really simple UI that LG has provided. So there is nothing much. There is no sliders for changing the ISO or anything like that. So there is not much to do here. So it doesn't slide. There is not many options, and that's all you get. So a very simple user interface from LG. Now let's talk about the camera performance. We had obviously taken many shots in several conditions and we came away very impressed with the camera performance. So let's start with the daylight samples. Here are some. So as you could see from those samples, a lot of samples came out really well with great ton of detail and good colors. So colors have been top notch on the LG G3. This is something very similar to what we found on the G2 too. So the colors are excellent and the overall representation of the image is very accurate. And one more thing you have to note is that the HDR was on auto for most of the photos, and that creates a really good uh, a representation or rather output. So the result is very nice. When you have HDR on auto, it automatically selects when and when not to use HDR and it works great. It sees if you have backlight and immediately chooses HDR, and some HDR photos did really come out well. So we have one particular photo taken in HDR and without HDR, so you can see side by side how much of a difference it makes. So as you saw from that sample, it is quite a bit of a difference when you use HDR on or HDR on auto. So the one thing that you have noticed is that when you have turned HDR on, it cannot use the flash. So you better keep it on auto because the LG UI works really well by finding out how better it is. So one more thing we have to say is the focus. Laser autofocus is something LG boasts in their product promotions, and we think it's pretty much warranted. We have never lost focus or tried to gain focus by repeatedly touching the screen for more than once. I mean, it always stays in focus. It sometimes struggles to find focus when you have pointed in the wrong object, but when it is in the right object, it does find the focus perfectly well. As you can see, it's pretty dull here, but still it finds focus. So that's why we think the laser autofocus is not a gimmick at all. It works great, and it works great in low light. So that's what we are going to see next, probably after macro shots, because macro shots there is nothing much to see because the LG G3 is really good, and macro shots are pretty much not a challenge for any flagship device. So here are some macro shots, and then we will see some low light shots. Now, as you saw, the macro shots were pretty good and nothing much to complain there, but going to the low light shots, you can see how much of similarity in performance is with the LG G2. So here are some low light shots, 6 of them in total. Take a look at them closely and we'll talk about it. So as you saw from those samples, there are clear things to note here. First of all, I want to say that laser autofocus works great in low light. Even in pitch dark conditions, it could find out the object and focus. That's something incredible, and that's great for low light photography. And then optical image stabilization plus makes it much better to take non-shaky photos. So two things LG have nailed here in low light photography, and that's focus and of course optical image stabilization induced longer exposed pictures. But the problem here is that the low light photos cannot be brighter than this, and even as they are, the brightness is very much manufactured in the sense that it's kind of overblown with noise processing, post-processing, and aggressive noise reduction, because low light is definitely not G3's strong point. As we have seen with the G2, there is a lot of aggressive post-processing for noise reduction, and it makes the photos a bit mushy. Even the use of dual tone flash, although the white balance is very better than what we had seen with the G2 and other devices, still manages to mush up the photos. They are very mushy, and you can take a look at the 100% resolution samples down. They look really mushy. So that's one problem I have with the LG G3's camera. Otherwise, it's pretty solid. Some low light photos taken with HDR have come out really well. The textures, the details, the sharpness, that's one thing very striking for me, because using OIS Plus, LG has maintained the sharpness by not inducing shake. That's one real good thing about the low light photos from the LG G3. But otherwise, we would say LG has a long way to go, because there needs to be a new sensor, there needs to be a wider aperture lens, a faster lens basically. So that's something LG need to work on probably in their next flagship. But if you're looking at decent low light photos, very usable low light photos, the G3 is still good, and we came away impressed with some in HDR. So there will be noise, there will be some crappy details, mushy details, but we think it's probably all right. If you ask us, this is very much on par with the G2 in terms of low light, but thankfully, due to the HDR mode in auto and of course the flash being two-tone, photos have slightly become better. And of course, laser autofocus makes it absolutely easy to focus on. Now moving on to the video department, as you have seen already, the video modes are plenty, and we shot several videos in the 4K resolution to test out the image quality, the overall video jerkiness, and of course the audio quality, and we came away very impressed. So we have picked out one sample for you, and here is one where we are walking with the phone in hand. It's very shaky, but somehow the OIS Plus worked really well and the audio was extremely clear. So here you go, the video sample.
Hey guys, this is Bharadwaj with Fonearena.com, and what you're seeing here is the 4K video sample from the LG G3 with optical image stabilization plus. So I'm walking in the streets of Delhi, and this is how it's like in terms of image quality and audio quality. You can see that the ambient noise is pretty much high, and whatever you're seeing is what you get in terms of image quality. So you can judge the foliage and see how the image quality is like. But otherwise, it's pretty much good from what we are seeing. So that's about it for the video sample from the LG G3 in 4K resolution. Do check out our other videos on the LG G3. Thanks for watching.
So as you saw from the video sample, it came out really well. The details were perfect, the colors were perfect, and also the audio was really good. LG had claimed that they had done something with audio, and we believe they have, because the audio is perhaps really good, and sometimes even better than phones that we have tried. It's definitely better than the iPhone, it's definitely better than the Z2. Not sure if it's better than the 808 or the 1020, but we'll keep it reserved for some other test. So that's really impressive in terms of 4K video sample. But there is also a 120 FPS 720p video mode. So here is a slow motion video recorded on the LG G3. Well, the slow motion sample, we would say not the best, because it has a lot of interlaced lines. We think LG is not doing it right, or rather it's not perfect. It's not definitely at iPhone levels, or rather HTC One levels, but still is a nifty mode to have if you want to take some really good slow motion videos. It is possible, and the power of Snapdragon makes it possible. So that's the slow motion mode on the LG G3. So our full verdict is that the LG G3 could have been a better low light camera. It could have had a newer sensor. For example, it could have had a 16 megapixel sensor from OmniVision that Gionee eLife E7 is using, and it could have had a brighter lens. But in terms of software, we think LG has come to a point where the algorithms need to be toned down on the low light side, which may be a limitation of hardware. So it's a combination of both these things. The hardware and the software both need to get better. But currently, if you ask us, the LG G3 is still good for a lot of usable photos in all the lighting conditions. And the laser autofocus works great. Optical image stabilization plus is a big thumbs up, and the audio recording is also awesome. Of course, the video in 4K too, a big thumbs up. So a lot of good things, a few bad things. So in terms of being a flagship, this camera is definitely really good. And if you have any doubts about it, do check out our full resolution samples. We have embedded them in the description below, and you can get a full idea of what the image quality is like. So that's about it for the long review of the G3's camera. Do let us know what you think in the comment section below. Do hit the thumbs up or the like button if you like this video, and of course subscribe to our channel for more videos like these. Thanks for watching.